Hey everyone, my name is Joan and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to share with you things that I've decluttered that I don't miss. Now, I've gotten into the habit of decluttering for the last 4 to 5 years now. I declutter monthly, every season, and I've had some major declutters every time I've had to move to a new place to live. Maybe this list will inspire you to finally let go of some of the things that you're struggling to let go of, and trust me, a lot of times when we declutter, we don't miss them. One of the recent things I had to declutter was my favorite denim jacket. This jacket, I've had it for about 6 years now. I wore it all the time. It was my favorite jacket. I just loved it so much. It also had pockets on the inside of the jacket, which was a really nice feature because sometimes I'll just throw my keys in there. But it also kind of had a tattered, used look, so there were holes on it. And a few months ago, my husband noticed when I was wearing it that the holes were just getting bigger, and there was one huge hole in the back, and he was like, you need to get rid of that jacket. That hole is only gonna get bigger. And I kept telling him, no, I'm gonna try to patch it up. I'm gonna try to fix it. I just love this jacket. But I looked at it and I just had to agree that there was no saving this jacket. So I finally had to let it go. It's been months now. I haven't had that jacket, and honestly, I don't really think about it anymore until now, and I don't miss it. Last year, we finally decluttered our blender. We've had this blender ever since my husband and I started dating, which was like 8 years ago. And we've had to replace it once with warranty, and it still worked out great for like the next 5 years. But last year, it started to overheat and it made the smoke smell. So we sat it on the balcony, and it ended up sitting on our balcony for about a month. We thought about getting it fixed. We looked into the warranty, but it's already way past it, so we can't get another replacement. And so we finally decided to just throw it away. Now we love making smoothies, especially over the summer. We made smoothies all the time. And we just finished one summer right now. And honestly, we didn't miss having a blender. We didn't miss making smoothies. And I haven't needed it for any of the cooking I've been doing. So this is a tough one because obviously blenders are very useful. But I've also realized that I can do without. We will probably get one eventually once we find one that we like, that's at a good price. But for now, we've been fine without a blender, and at the moment, we don't miss having a blender. One of the recent things I had to declutter was my flat iron. I loved flat ironing my hair, and I've had my flat iron for many, many years now. But recently the wire started getting kind of messed up. Sometimes it doesn't turn on, and I would still try to use it. I would like roll the wire around in a weird way to see if it would turn on, but it got really frustrating trying to get it to work, so I finally threw it away. But I think it was a good thing because my hair had gotten so dry from flat ironing way too much that it was good that I decluttered it, let my hair heal, and now I just put a little bit of serum, I blow dry it just a bit to flatten it out, and it works just fine. I really don't miss having a flat iron at the moment, and I have no intention of getting a new flat iron anytime soon. I'm about to go down memory lane with all the next things that I've decluttered. One of the things I recently decluttered was my longboard skateboard. So I went to a university where one side of campus took about a 20 to 25 minute walk to get to the other side of campus. And that got really annoying because I would be late to class, and moving my car to the other side was pointless because then I would be late trying to look for parking. So my ex-boyfriend at the time got me a longboard skateboard for Christmas, and that was such a lifesaver. I would use that to get to class, and I would always get to class on time. After that relationship ended, I actually kept that skateboard for a while. I had a hard time letting go of it because part of me was thinking, oh my God, that skateboard was so expensive. I think it was like $200 that he spent on that skateboard. And on top of that, I used that skateboard all the time. I would go to the beach with it, I would go to the park with it, and it was just such a fun thing to have. But then when I entered my new relationship with my husband, I realized I need to let go of that skateboard. Every time I saw that skateboard in the garage, I would be reminded of him. Even though it was just like a split second of thinking about my past, I realized I needed to let it go. So finally, when my husband and I moved out of our house to move to a smaller apartment, those were one of the things I prioritized letting go of. My husband put it on Craigslist, and the next day it was gone. Do I miss that skateboard? No. I think I'm at the age where I feel like I'm too old to skateboard, so I really don't miss that skateboard at all. A few years ago, I had to declutter my waterproof Casio watch. I've had this watch for about 10 years. I bought it on Amazon for 60 bucks when I started surfing all the time, and I had so many great memories with this watch. I would go surfing 6 a.m. right before going to work. I would go surfing in groups with my friends, and anytime somebody wanted to know the time when we were in the ocean, I was the one with the watch. So I love my watch. I wore it when I went in the water. I wore it all the time. It was my watch. But a few years ago, I started noticing it started to malfunction, like the screen wasn't as bright anymore. I replaced the battery and that didn't help, so I realized that the watch was on its way out. So I finally had to let it go. There was no fixing it. Do I miss it? I did miss it at first when I first got rid of it, but now that it's been gone for a few years, I don't miss it anymore. The next group of things I decluttered about 3 years ago were all my percussion instruments. When I was at the height of my music career, I was playing drum set, but I was also playing percussion, and I realized that I don't like playing percussion. I just don't want to do that kind of work anymore. So 3 years ago, when I moved to Ventura, I met a local musician who was actually interested in buying percussion instruments, and so I sold all my percussion instruments to him. And it actually felt like a relief to let go of all those things, because for a while, they were my identity. I was the percussionist to hire, and even though I got a lot of work, I really wasn't happy playing percussion. My hands would swell up, I would get a lot of calluses, and it was just not my favorite thing to play. Letting go of those percussion instruments, I let go of that identity that I had as a percussionist. And it definitely felt like a relief, and I honestly don't miss having those percussion instruments. And on top of that, they cluttered up my space so much. I always struggled with storing them, so it's quite a relief to let them go. Another group of things that I decluttered, and this was about 4 years ago, were my 2 crates of vinyl records. I did have a record player, I did listen to a lot of vinyl records, but when the needle broke, I never bothered to replace it, and so I just had these 2 crates of vinyl records. And these vinyl records were actually given to me by a former roommate. He just gave them to me, and so I was stuck with them, and I tried to appreciate it. I tried to get into listening to vinyl records, but I really wasn't. And so when I moved to Ventura, a buddy of mine that also just moved to Ventura was really getting into vinyl records, so I decided to offload my clutter of vinyl records to him. But the cool thing that he did was that he kept the ones that he wanted, and then he sold the rest to a local record shop, and then he split the profits with me. So that was really nice of him. Do I miss my vinyl records? Not at all. I struggled to store those things, but I had such a hard time letting them go. I think there was a bit of a guilt of me decluttering these things because they were given to me as a gift. Again, looking back, I really am glad I got rid of them, and I really don't miss them. I'm sure if you've been following my channel for a while, you know that I love to read, and I do have quite a bit of books. But I do declutter books throughout the years. If I have not read or finished them, I will declutter them. What happened was about 10 years ago, when I wanted to get into reading, I would buy the most random books. I would buy a lot of different fiction, nonfiction, biographies, so many random topics, and I would maybe read a chapter or 2 and just not finish it because it wasn't interesting to me. Or I would buy it because it looked interesting, but then I take it home and I just don't read it at all. So throughout the years, I've had to declutter a lot of books. The problem was those topics were never interesting to me. It was me forcing myself to be a reader. But then when I discovered the kind of books I'm interested in, I actually would read a book and finish it. So the kinds that I like are books on spirituality, books on business and money and self-development. Those books I will keep because I actually enjoy reading them. I love learning, and some of those books I've actually read again. But as far as any kind of book that I just haven't finished, haven't read, I will declutter them. I don't miss them taking up space, and honestly, I don't even remember a lot of those books that I've decluttered. Some of the things I've really had to work on decluttering throughout the years are memorabilia type of items. For me, those are things like concert tickets to all the shows that I've been to, bracelets, name badges to like events that I've worked at or performed at, souvenirs of places I've been or visited. But the problem is a lot of these items would just sit in a box. For a while I did have a cork board where I would stick all my concert tickets on and bracelets and whatnot, and it was kind of fun when I was young, but then looking back, it was just a bunch of clutter on the wall. So as I got older, I started putting them into Ziplocs, and then from the Ziploc, I would put them in a box. So I had this box of just memorabilia type stuff, collecting dust, and at some point I had to get rid of them because I really didn't know what to do with them. I didn't want to scrapbook them, and so every time I would move, I would slowly get rid of stuff. And honestly, do I miss any of it? Actually, I don't. It's kind of a relief to let them go. I know there were fun memories of my past, but I also don't want to hold on to my past. And I really just don't have a place for things like that in my life right now. So I don't miss any of that stuff. I'm glad they're not taking up any space in my mind and in my home. Some of the things that I've definitely had to declutter throughout the years were old journals and diaries. Now, I've been journaling, writing in diaries for as long as I can remember. So I have had over 20 years worth of journals and diaries. But every time I've had to move, I would see these diaries and journals and try to figure out if it's time to let them go. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I really don't need to keep these. I mean, yes, they were kind of fun to read, but they were my past, and I don't want to be reminded of my past anymore. I feel like I'm a new person, I'm living a new life. There was just no reason to keep them. So when I started decluttering my old journals, I would read them one last time, just kind of flip through them, laugh at it, be mad at it, or whatever, but I just threw them out. I really don't think about them anymore, and I really don't miss them. Now, the last group of things that I've really had to declutter were my box of gag gifts. These are gifts that I never asked for. These are gifts that people throughout my life would just get for me because they thought it was funny or it was like an inside joke. Well, for example, I had an old friend who thought I looked like Pocahontas, and so every year he would get me some kind of Pocahontas thing. So he basically built my entire Pocahontas costume, the dress and the necklace and the earrings and all that. And any types of gifts like this, I had just kept in a box, and I would just collect them. And there were a lot of silly things, like things that you would find in the dollar section at Target. When I decided that I need to start decluttering stuff like this for my life, that was one of the first things to go. So thinking back, do I miss any of it? I really don't, because they were just taking up space. They were just silly things that I really have no use for. And also they were reminders of my past life, and I really don't want to be reminded of my past, so I really don't miss them, and I'm so glad I let those things go. So those are the things that I've had to declutter throughout the years that I just don't miss. Decluttering can be a very difficult process. It can take time, but sometimes it's a necessary thing to do if you need to let go of your past. Let me know in the comments below what items you've had to declutter that you just don't miss anymore. And I would also love to hear about items that you have a hard time letting go of and why. Anyway, thanks so much for watching this video. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.